Welcome to the Ditch the Struggle podcast. I'm your host, Alana Rosso. I'm a graphic designer turned career and success coach who knew I could do better, but kept falling short of where I wanted to go. But after years of exploring personal and career development, business, money mindset, and energy work, I'm here to tell you that yes, you can move from stuck and defeated to empowered and confident. Ready to dive in? Awesome. Together, let's ditch the struggle. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Today's episode is how to transition from the service industry to corporate. So it's kind of a niche episode. This is the type of episode I really want you to share with others, people who have a service industry job, like they're a waiter or they're in retail or they're doing something like that, and they want to go into corporate or they want to change their life a little bit, change their career. They want to make a transition, partly because they want more money. I'm going to talk a lot about the money in the service industry, but they want to make a change and they don't know how to do it. And how this came to be was about 2 years ago. I was having a conversation with such a lovely, smart woman, and her whole career had been working in retail. I had a lot to chat with her about because I have worked retail like billions of hours of my life. So my first job, as I call it, was working, if anyone was around Toronto in the 90s, at Marvelous Muffins. And then I moved into working for a drugstore. And then I worked throughout college in a jewelry store, an accessory store. I have worked retail off and on for a huge amount of my career. And I always really liked it. I thought it was really fun. I got to be around fun items. It was uplifting. I liked working with people, even though I can be a total introvert. I like being around people. I wasn't really so much into the selling, but I liked having the conversations. I was not a high-pressure salesperson, and I couldn't work anywhere where I had a sales goal, like a number that completely derailed me. But in terms of having relationships with clients, repeat customers, kind of just building that trust factor with people, I loved that. Liked being around, surrounded by cute things, pretty things. I really enjoyed it. So it was a huge part of my life, and it was just a way for me to make money while I was going through school, figuring out what I wanted to do. I worked a year of retail before I transitioned into a graphic design career while I was trying to figure out what to do with my life. So I have worked retail a lot. As I was having a conversation with this woman, I'm going to call her Lauren, it was apparent to me that she wanted to make a change. I mean, she said as much, but she didn't know how. She's like, I feel like I'm trapped in retail. And I was like, really? There's so many skills that you gain and can do by being a retail salesperson. And we can apply those to the corporate world. You just kind of have to know how. And it didn't seem like she knew how to do that. So I got really curious about this. And I thought this has to be an episode because I'm wondering how many people are in this boat. They are working retail or a service industry job that doesn't pay a huge amount of money and are struggling. I think there's a lot of people and they wonder how can I get, a higher paying job? I want to just work for a company that has more benefits, more perks and all that stuff. How do I do that? So I'm going to dive into a little bit of the how-to in this episode. And I also want to just point out some of the things about retail that drive me nuts. And I would actually say in many ways, the retail industry is quite sinister. And I know that's a strong word, but here's why. And I'm going to speak specifically for Ontario, but if you are working retail, chances are you actually love your job because I find retail people just love it. They love the environment of it. They love the talking to the people, all those things that I mentioned. But they're not getting the hours that they want. This is chronic. And what happens is the retail companies, they have designed it so that they, for the most part, give people less than 30 hours per week, which technically means they are part-time. So if you work over 30 hours a week in Ontario, technically you are full-time. When you are full-time in a job, you are entitled to things like benefits and kind of perks, potential vacation days, maybe some bonuses, things like that. So these retail chains intentionally and purposefully keep their employees at under 30 hours a week. So I would hear, and I experienced being in retail and not being able to get enough hours to actually, never mind thrive in your life, but just survive. You're going to live off the bagel and cream cheese multiple times a week because you just don't have a huge amount of money. And if you were living in Canada, Toronto right now, you need about $7 billion a year to kind of just make it through, right? So this is a common frustration with people in retail, but the thing that keeps them is that they like the job or they love it or they just don't think they can expand beyond it. And here's where this really applies to anyone is that we can suddenly feel we are trapped in our career. We self-define ourselves in our career. Like, this is what I do. This is all I can do. Okay. And that is the most dangerous thing you can do in your career. Like, you have to believe that you can transition to something else. Like, I was a graphic designer. I had to believe I could go into coaching. There are so many people who make big transitions in their career. They have to at some point believe that they can make the exit. They can do the thing they want to do. And what I find so interesting about retail people is that they are often exceptionally talented, very smart. Their people skills are off the charts, obviously, if you're doing well in it. And here's something that they can do that is a superpower. They can sell. Selling. Let's not forget that these are salespeople. Selling is one of the most important skills that we need. Everyone needs to have some kind of sales skill. We're always selling something of ourselves. You can do it with integrity, right? And the great salespeople do it with integrity, but they can sell. Now, if you have that skill, you can transition into almost anything. Now, is it going to be super easy? Absolutely not. Or it could be, but it's not as hard as one might think. And when I was having this discussion with Lauren, she just felt, or I got the impression that it was such a huge leap, like it was going to be impossible. And I was like, okay, well, the first thing you would do, I'm wondering if some of you already know what my answer to this is going to be. I was like, well, the first thing you want to do is create a LinkedIn profile. And again, I always preface, LinkedIn is a tool. I don't enjoy being on it, but it is a very effective tool. So she's like shocked when I gave her this answer to begin with. She didn't even think to go on LinkedIn and have a profile on LinkedIn because she thought that was for people who were already in corporate, like corporate suits. And maybe once upon a time, LinkedIn was about that. Nowadays, LinkedIn is actually a free-for-all. You can have any job, be in any industry. You can be an actor. You can be a Reiki healer. You can be a coach. You can be literally anything and be on LinkedIn. And so the pool is much wider now. There's a much different level of acceptance. And I think no matter what you do in your career, if you want to actually grow your career, get more clients, or expand, going on LinkedIn is helpful. Unless you want to be totally underground. And listen, I know people like that. My osteopath doesn't even have a website. She's completely off the radar and she's booked up for 6 months. So she just doesn't have to be on it. But that's not most people, right? So I was saying to Lauren, I was like, okay, you got to get on LinkedIn. She's like, why would I be on LinkedIn? Like, I don't fit in. So that was immediately the perception that she had is I don't fit in. That's not my place. So here is the disconnection from the identity that she wants. Because I'm sitting here thinking, okay, she's super smart. She has her shit together. She knows how to sell. She's just lovely to talk to. She's highly intelligent. She knows fashion. She was working in retail. She understands trends. She knew how to put together an outfit. She's just one of those people that you just enjoy talking to. And you could tell that she was trustworthy. Like, I would go into a store and want to work with her because I know she's not going to sell me something that didn't look good on me. I just knew that. So that like, know, and trust factor, which is golden. It's so golden in any job. And so I was like, of course you could be on LinkedIn. And this is what I would do and just kind of get it going. And one of the most important things to add to your LinkedIn are your skills, like all the things that you can do. You are not just a retail salesperson. So the one thing I would say don't do on LinkedIn, let's say you worked as a barista at Starbucks, right? You wouldn't put in the headline, which is right under your name in LinkedIn. You got your photo, then you have your photo and your name, and then the headline, which is kind of like the descriptor of what your job title is. You're not actually putting your job title. So you would never put graphic designer at Adidas or barista at Starbucks. That's actually not helpful. First of all, your headline is not a place to promote another company. I don't care if you work at Starbucks. I don't care if you work at Adidas, whatever it is. may sound impressive, but that's for the employee history. That's for your job description section. You want to talk about your skills, and it can be aspirational too. So it's you're a customer service expert. You're, invested in sales, that you're a salesperson, that you love selling, that you build customer relations. There's all these things you do as a retail salesperson. And again, this could apply to other service industry jobs that are really valuable and really important and things to promote. And that headline in your LinkedIn has to have the type of words that a recruiter would be looking for if they wanted to hire someone, let's say in a corporate sales job, okay, or potentially an admin job where you also have to do kind of some selling or maybe customer service, right? So you need to reorient yourself around what you do. So you can't just simply define yourself as, well, I'm a salesperson and I work at XYZ fashion store, right? You have to give yourself a more elevated descriptor. And that's sort of stepping into this new identity. That's seeing yourself differently. It's kind of putting yourself through this bit more of a corporate lens, playing the game a little bit more. I mean, LinkedIn is about playing the game. And it is a game. It's partly keyword searching, it's SEO, it's like elevating your skills, it's kind of showcasing your skills. It's a little bit of like showing off your accomplishments. It is all of that stuff. And I know that makes people feel really cringy, and I get it. I have about a 10-minute max that I can be on LinkedIn before I've just kind of had enough. But it is a very powerful place to almost force yourself to reinvent yourself, or again, reorient yourself around what you're doing and what you can bring to the table. And so the main thing here is that I could see that Lauren was not seeing her skills for what they are, like not seeing the value of her skills. This is hugely common. In fact, the most common thing I will see on resumes, and I've looked at literally hundreds and hundreds of resumes as a career coach, is people undersell themselves. They don't really showcase what they do. And then the biggest mistake people make on their resumes, if we're going to touch on this subject, the absolute biggest mistake people make on their resumes is they highlight their responsibilities versus their achievements. So they go into a laundry list of all the things they do. I run the petty cash. I check out customers. I restock the shelves at night. I organize the stock room, blah, 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 blah. And they don't talk about their accomplishments. So the accomplishments would be, I hit my sales goals daily. I created new processes to make the stockroom more streamlined. I gained 5 customers a week, whatever that is. And they can be qualitative or quantitative accomplishments. But you need to talk about the things that you've brought to the table, the ways you made the job and the role better. Okay? And like the way you helped people, the way you maybe increased profits, or the way you increased brand awareness, or the way you made the shopping experience better for customers. That's what's important. The responsibilities, we don't need to get too much into that. I mean, that can be threaded in a little bit, but you're also going to be putting in your technical skills that you've done, what CRM system you used, or, customer relationship management, maybe what software. Those are all going to be on your resume and or your LinkedIn. And as a sidebar, I highly recommend first doing your resume, getting that the way you want, and then applying it to your LinkedIn. And your LinkedIn can have a little bit more zhuzh to it. It doesn't have to be as serious as a resume. And I do like the trend now where people are bringing more of their personality into LinkedIn. It's not nearly as stuffy. So there's a lot of pluses to it. But the fact is that, chances are you have so many skills that you don't even know. And that's what's great. Sometimes working with a career coach is like they help you pull it out. And in Lauren's case, I'm like, okay, so there are so many things you do in retail, especially I have worked retail, so I know how hard it is. I mean, if you can work retail and get through the day and sell stuff and still walk out, not, a little unscathed, then that's amazing. That shows you the perseverance. You've got strength, because some customers are not so nice. And that's why it's so amazing when you do get a great customer. And I highly recommend you work a customer service job at some point in your life, because the amount of empathy you develop, the patience that you develop, it's incredible. I'm really grateful that I had that experience. So some of the things you would do in customer service that are power words are something to think about. So power words, and I'm going to put in the show notes a great article that I'd found on Indeed about power words. these are the words that you can thread through your LinkedIn, your resume, and even in an interview that are showcasing the things that you took action, like how you took action in a positive way. So you may have reconciled something, increased, sales, profits, transformed, improved, promoted, eliminated. So let's say you eliminated waste in certain departments. So these are words that are like how you took action. And again, when you just start listing your responsibilities off in LinkedIn or on your resume, you're not putting in power words. You're like, I just did this, and this. This is what I did. And people are forgetting all about the power words, because the power words are what you can apply to a more corporate job. That's going to perk the ears up and be more noticed by people who are potentially recruiting for a corporate job. And so, and if that's kind of part of the goal, is to move into, a corporate job, and it's not like retail is not part of in many cases, large corporations, but you're not working in the actual retail store. You maybe want to go into the corporate office. Then you really need to kind of look at how you're using these words and positioning yourself, and recognizing the value of them. So another thing to think about is that if you are in retail and you're thinking about, or a service job, you're thinking about going to corporate, but you're not quite sure yet how to make that transition. In the meantime, what I would recommend is, and I'll go back to retail again here, is working in a retail environment where there's a really good commission structure, where you can be making actually great money. And you can, that can often mean going more into a luxury goods retail chain, where there will be more sales pressure. So that's not for everybody, but it can be much more profitable, much more, just a more viable way to make a living. However, again, you still may potentially run into the problem where you're not going to get those over 30 hours a week. Even my understanding is some assistant managers in retail stores don't even get the 40 hours a week. Because, retail, let's face it, has been suffering for years, right? We're going more into this online world. So it can be difficult to get the hours you need. But if you are just trying to figure out what the next step would be, I would do whatever I could to move into a retail job that has more financial potential. And a lot of that comes down to the commission structure that they're using. So really dig deep into how companies are doing their commission structure, and maybe target the companies that have a good package, a good system, or a good pay structure that's going to be more helpful to pay your bills. Okay, but back to this idea of using your skills to leverage your career and how you can move into different roles. So the thing that, again, you have to remember is that you're not limited to just doing a customer service job. You can move into any role that has customer service as part of it. So this is, again, a little bit of a mindset shift, getting your head around it. You can start Googling jobs that use a lot of customer service skills. You can move into an admin job would be probably an easy transition in. Also executive assistant, because you're used to helping with people and kind of putting out fires. That's another thing that retail people do, is putting out fires. Things are going, things happen all the time, just crazy things in retail stores. Virtual assistant. And these are roles that have high earning potential. You can definitely make a 6-figure salary being an executive assistant, especially if you are just really good under pressure, if you're that salesperson that performs well under pressure. But honestly, there's thousands of jobs you can move into, but you have to first take a minute to recognize these skills that you already have, and then start brainstorming as to what industries, what kind of jobs would use those skills. So you're going to get yourself on LinkedIn would be my first recommendation. This is what I said to Lauren. There was some hesitation there because, again, she just wasn't thinking that that was a place that she kind of belonged. I was like, of course you can. Of course you belong there. You should be proud of your retail job. Absolutely. Now, one of the easiest ways to move from retail into corporate is, let's say you are working at Starbucks as a barista. It is easier for you to move into the corporate office of Starbucks if you've already worked as a barista there. So most retail chains love someone who has kind of gone from the ground up within the company and has learned the ropes from the very beginning. They love that. And I know someone now who's working in a corporate job, and it's only part-time, so she needs a full-time job. And I was like, you really need to look at what corporate opportunities are existing. Now, the company is not in Toronto, but there still might be remote roles. There still might be something there. And so whatever corporate trainings they offer, like having conversations with HR, like this is something I'm interested in, like being proactive about it if you like the company you're working for. So that would be like the easiest way to kind of move from retail to corporate, is to work within the same company you're working with. But honestly, so many people in service industry have these skills that can just take them anywhere. They just you have to be brave enough to put yourself out there. So get yourself on LinkedIn, start writing your headline that's a bit more aspirational of what you want, and using some of these power words and talking about yourself like that you are a highly accomplished person at selling, customer service, customer relationships, that you are someone who is able to make these experiences for people better, that you are able to move products, you are able to sell authentically. All of these things, these are highly valued by companies. Like even like a tech company, if let's say they have software they're selling, they need someone who can sell it, right? We always need sellers and we need buyers, right? We need both. So the point of this conversation is to really remind you not to underestimate your skills. And I'm using the retail example because this is where I see very much a small identity attached to someone, that they think they just work retail, which is ridiculous. And I say that again, as someone who's worked retail, I know how hard it is. And you are not stuck in retail. You're not stuck in anything you do. You just have to kind of redefine yourself, reinvent yourself, and then again, have the courage to kind of put yourself out there and go for more. And it may be that you're so used to living off, a mediocre salary for so long, you can't even imagine like making a 6-figure salary as an executive assistant. That's like banana town. You're like, I can't even imagine. I'm just making enough to pay my rent. And as most people in retail are, I can't even imagine making that. But you can. You absolutely can. And it can be a job that you actually enjoy. And it doesn't mean like a lot of people don't want to give up the retail job because they actually really love it, right? So how about this concept that you can find another job that you love just as much or more and make more money? That is a possibility. It's a possibility that you have to let yourself think about. You have to entertain this idea. You have to like sit in that, marinate in it. And then the other thing that's a little bit difficult is that you are now separate. You will have to kind of leave the pack. So all your retail friends, anyone who's working, let's say you're working as a waiter in a restaurant, and although you can make great money in the service industry in a restaurant, but let's just say in the particular place you're working, no one's making great money. Everyone's pretty miserable. It's not great. So you love everyone though. So you then have to look for a new opportunity, put yourself out there, go for it. And then let's say you get a new opportunity. You now have to disconnect yourself from your pack, your little wolf pack at the restaurant. You have to say goodbye to them. You have to, like, that chapter of your life ends. That takes a lot of courage to do that, to walk away from something that's familiar, that you're used to. But transitions can be hard, but they're usually worth it. I mean, if you have the potential to earn more money, doing something that you still enjoy, that still feels like you, that is going to make your life easier. Like, I do see a lot of people stay in jobs that pay crap money because it's just what they expect and what they're used to. They just really can't get their head around something else. So that's a huge part of this mindset game, this huge mindset shift is like, oh, something else is better out there and I could actually do it. That's the huge part of it. It may be doing something different or doing it differently, but it is possible. So that's important for everyone to, doesn't matter what you're in, if you want to change your life, change your career. And I know it sounds like I'm maybe focusing a bit on money, and that's partly because it is coming up with a lot of people I'm working with right now. And there's such an economic strain in Canada right now, so I can't not talk about that. And the truth is, if you don't make enough money to live a comfortable life, the strain of that, the pressure of that is immense. It can completely derail you. It can affect your mental and physical and emotional health, all of those things. So I would say if you're really struggling financially, like living off the job that you're in, then you have to do whatever it takes, and it is on you to move into something better. Like part of the reason I get so frustrated on LinkedIn is I'm seeing jobs posted that pay, there's one particular company I know because I had an interview there a couple of years ago. Every single job they post is $55,000 a year Canadian. So for my American listeners, that's like 35,000 Canadian American, something like that. And just as a reminder, I always use this as context. In the early 2000s, I had a graphic design job as an intermediate graphic designer making $55,000 a year. So 20 years ago. Do we understand the math here? This is insane what's going on right now. So that does trigger me a lot on LinkedIn. It's wild. It's banana town. It's crazy. But that's not to say great jobs don't exist with better salaries. And again, a huge incentive to move from a retail job where you're barely making 30 hours a week to a corporate job is that you will have potentially full-time benefits and a lot of those perks, which can actually be life-changing. Like if you have coverage and then can do your physiotherapy every couple of weeks and do all the appointments that you need to do, how is that not going to be amazing for your life? Like that can have just a huge impact, right? It can totally transform your life as opposed to just scrounging through and trying to get enough hours. And the thing that's and I'm going to use this word again, sinister about this retail hour thing, the way that they're only giving people less than 30 hours is that, think about it, if you work 5 days a week, 6 hours a day, that's like 30 hours. So that's barely going to qualify you for full-time. And what they'll do is they'll make it like 29.5. So let's just say 4 days, you work 6 hours, and then it's like 5.5 on the 5th day. That will feel like a full-time job. This is what's so crazy about it. It feels like you're working full-time because you still have to commute to the job, like it's on a physical location. You work your day. It's not a full day. It's not 8 hours. But you're really only going to get a 15-minute break in that, right? They're not giving you the full hour. Or like my first retail job when I worked at the Marvelous Muffins, I worked an 8-hour shift and I was not allowed to take any break. I worked from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. Seriously. Was not allowed to take even a 15-minute break. If I did, it was unpaid. This is completely illegal. I'm sure it was back then. I know it's 100 years ago, but I'm sure it was. And I accepted this. I was like, well, they say I can't take a break, right? What am I going to do? I was 15 years old. Like, you learn these things, you get programmed so young as to how you're supposed to show up in a job. It's so effed up. Anyway, so these people working barely 30 hours a week, it will feel like a full-time job. If you just stayed 2 more hours a day, you would be in a full-time role, right? So it's almost as tiring and exhausting and as challenging as a full-time job, but you're not even going to get close to the financial compensation that you need, to really thrive. And you're not going to get all those perks and things like that. So, I hope this is a little bit inspirational in terms of helping you see possibility. That's what I really love to see is that, something else is possible for me. And you are not stuck in the industry you are, especially if it's retail. So again, share this podcast episode with anyone who is in a retail job, feeling stuck, wants to move. You absolutely can. My first piece of advice is get on LinkedIn and update that resume to make sure you're focusing on your accomplishments versus your responsibilities. And then you're going to be doing the network thing. And I know everyone's going to groan when they hear that word. Networking does not mean going out in the evening and dressing up and having to sit around with 1,000 people. Okay. First of all, there's a whole bunch of virtual networking organizations out there. Meetup has made a comeback. You can start talking to more people, talking to friends who work in corporate environments. How can I get my foot in the door? What kind of is this company like? So digging research. Finding out things about other company structures, places that might be of interest. Where can I transition my skills? What if I love working at this retail fashion store, obviously I love fashion. Maybe I can go in a different angle, right? So you're going to update the LinkedIn. You're going to really get that resume with more accomplishments versus responsibilities. You're going to start networking. You start talking to people. And then the most important piece is shift your mindset so that you believe you're worthy of another job. You can move into a different career, you can make more money, and you can have a better life where you're actually thriving. Take care, guys. Thank you for joining me today on Ditch the Struggle. You showing up here means so, so much to me. To dig deeper into the topics discussed today and to learn about my work, visit alanarosa.com. And don't forget to download your free resources while you're there. And if this episode resonated with you, please share with others who also want to ditch the struggle. Go ahead and subscribe to the podcast, leave a rating and a review, and let me know what you'd like to see more of on this podcast. And before I go, I want to leave you with my 3 favorite ways to ditch the struggle. Be your own best advocate, take baby steps for the win, and forget about a linear career path. It's overrated and you are doing just fine. See you next time.